Good morning, everyone, and we want to welcome our guest today, Will Payne, who has a ton of experience in broadcasting. And it occurred to me we couldn't start this series without having him here to sort of kick us off. And so thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
I thought we'd start with, it's kind of a terrible thing to ask, but can you take a few minutes and sort of talk about your experiences, where you've come from in broadcasting, and particularly you've got a family that you have to talk about as well.
Yeah, so I'm a third generation broadcaster. My grandfather got in the radio business 1953, put an AM radio station on the air in Cushing, Oklahoma. That's where my dad at a very young age got the radio bug. And so a few years later, my grandfather, who was a lawyer, Native American trial lawyer, was his main profession, but he came back to Oklahoma, wanted to build a radio station, did. His law profession grew, and he had to go back to D.C., and so he sold the radio station in Cushing, and then my dad was heartbroken. So the next few years, it was up to him to figure out how he was going to get back into the radio business. He did so, went to Oklahoma City University, got an engineering degree, became the engineer on duty back when you had to have an engineer live on duty in radio business. And he was also the overnight DJ at KOMA in Oklahoma City. So he was the engineer and the DJ at the same time. That's how he broke back into the radio business. Later on, fast forward to 1960s, he put on his first FM station in our home in Edmond, Oklahoma on Broadway Street. Later, a couple of years later, we got our own home, and the radio station got its own home. I grew up in the business. I literally came home from the hospital, went straight to the transmitter room because that was in my parents' bedroom. That's my story. 8 years old, I went on the radio for the first time with my dad. It was called the Bill and Will Show. And I want to share something about myself that I don't normally talk about, but would like to share it with your students if you don't mind.
Please.
So I was born half deaf. And so I have only the hearing range from about midway and lower. So I could hear the nice low bass sounds, but midway and up, such as my mom and my wife's and my daughter's voices, are very hard for me to hear without some form of hearing aid device. And so I give a lot of credit to my dad for giving me a lot of encouragement to stay in the business, because someone that's deaf is not supposed to be on the radio because we don't hear all the sounds that we're supposed to hear. And so, and that's why if you ever, I'm considered a Yankee when people hear me talk, but I'm born and raised in Oklahoma, and it's just a deaf accent. So my entire life, I've always had that impediment that I've had to get over, whether it was speech, not being able to hear, and being in the radio business. The audiologist would say, you do not need to be in the radio business because what do? We wear headphones a lot, right? I made that choice to stay in the business. My father pushed me along, and I was able to work through those devices. So what my point to that is, it doesn't matter. If you dream and you passion, you want to do this for a living, you can, regardless of what your handicap is. So that's my story. I went on by age 17, I was a program director, and age 21, I was the general manager of my first radio station. Currently own and operate 7 of my own stations, 7 FMs, 4 digital station translators. Proud to be a part of the Oklahoma broadcasting history. It's a family business for us, and that's how we treat everybody that's with us currently. So that brings me down to southeastern Oklahoma. So southeast Oklahoma, I came down here in 1995, took 2 years off of college, and in 1997 to 1999, I drove from Hugo, Oklahoma in the mornings over to Durant, took my classes there, came back to work, and then I took night classes at E.T. Dunlap and Idabel. For 2 years, I did that almost daily. That was able to allow me to finish up my degree in business information management. And my love for Southeastern is because there were so many great instructors there. The administration was so kind to me to encourage me and really push me along to finish up my degree. And I was able to get it done before the millennium.
Now, speaking of, I know BIM degree, but did you work with Doc Chappell, Ben Chappell?
I did a little bit, and you know what I did. What you can't help it. You know, when this is in your blood, you can't help but to go and hang out or whatever. And when I got there, they needed some extra stuff. So when we were replacing stuff at the office, I was bringing over cart machines. I was bringing over CD machines, anything and everything that they needed. We brought over some very early generation editing software called Saw and installed that on one of the computers. So, I mean, yeah, we were instrumental in that because, you know, when I had a break, because I couldn't just go home. When I had a break, I would go over there and see what was going on and with the radio station and seeing what they needed.
Were they still? This is, you know, history for folks, the students that are there now. But were they still smoking in the studio back then when you were there?
I don't think so. I think I want to say that smoking ended in the early 90s. Growing up, that was commonplace. There was always a cigarette lit in the studio from, you know, my early days of 1982 all the way up until about 1993. And then when I moved to where I'm at now in 1995, we prohibited that. But for two reasons. For the main reason was it was detrimental to the equipment. The tar would be inside the equipment, the computers. It stained the ceiling, and we weren't even really considered about our own health. And now we are. Now we consider it our own health. It would be offensive if you walked into a studio and you smelled that cloud of smoke.
You know, just a little something for you. I actually still have, and the university has set aside a room for it. We got it out of the building because of a number of reasons, just space, and we remodeled the station, and we needed ADA accessible spaces, and so we had to do some shifting. But I still have the original KHIB record collection.
Wow, very nice.
It fits and it takes up an entire room. We've got it boxed up, we've got it in shelves, and we've got wood over those shelves so that, you know, people can't get at it and doing things. But I had to move it out just because it had this smell of cigarette smoke in the paper of the album cover so much that it was an allergen risk. And so we moved it to it's in a climate controlled environment. And at some point, we're going to go through and sort of archive it and take a look at it. But it's still on the campus. If you're ever on campus one day, I'll take you in and show it to you. One I thought about
would absolutely love a visit on that.
Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask today was can you tell me a little bit about sort of what a day is like for you? In your normal operations, in your daily operations, what is it that you have to do on a daily basis to sort of oversee this great collection of stations? That's a lot of work. Can you kind of take us through what a day is like for you, serving as basically like an executive producer over all of this?
I think you're right. Or master of ceremonies or ringmaster might be more. A better fitting, and that's in a good way too. Dale, I want to change it just a little bit, twist the question just a little bit, and I want to say the greatest gift of this industry is every day we wake up and do something completely different. We're not widget makers. We make great content. We make great products. We can actually get tangible. I can send you a piece of audio to your cell phone, to your email, and you can listen, you can share it with the world. So every day we wake up and it's a completely different day. But I'll tell you how I wake up. For me, creativity is king. And the first part of my day is being creative. So I wake up, I'm part of a morning show host. I come in, we create the content for that morning show, and then about 9 o'clock, I shift over to more managerial structure. So from 9 to 5, I'm in a managerial type situation where I'm dealing with sales, I'm dealing with programming, I'm dealing with traffic, I'm dealing with the public. That's the 9 to 5, and then after 5, it doesn't stop. Our business continues 24/7. If you're awake, you're still in the business, because after 5, we're still active with social media. After 5, we're active with our children out at the soccer, football, basketball fields, or we're at dinner and we have a conversation about something maybe they heard earlier in the day or something they saw on social media. So we're always on the air, regardless of whether we're in studio or we're out and about. That's just one thing that comes with the job. And then, yeah, you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again, but it's never the same. I mean, today I'm doing a Zoom call with you. After this, I've got a Rotary meeting to go to. After that, we're going to record some stuff at another studio. And then I'm going to go pick up my 10-year-old at school, come back. We're going to probably record the elementary school lunch report for him. And then we'll wrap up with the evening. So, and then tomorrow is Friday Night Football. Friday Night Football, we wake up, we get ready for that day's game. We're going to be a home game here. We've got another station that's got an away game in Wilburton. We've got another station that's got an away game. So we're constantly changing everything that we do on a daily basis. And that doesn't include anything that we weren't expecting to do. Those are just the items that we're expecting to do. And there's always a fire to be put out, or there's always an opportunity that comes up in the day, and you have to decide whether or not you want to seize it.
You know, you mentioned sales. That is an area where I feel a lot of students have apprehension. It takes someone with a certain set of skills to be good at sales. And I mean, really understanding the value of what they have and how that can be a great help to a business in the community. And it's hard. I find a lot of students kind of squeamish at the idea of sales. What encouragement could you give students about the importance of sales and maybe how to look at sales? Because it's important to the industry.
Well, you're absolutely right. Sales is king. And if you can master sales, then you can talk your way into anything else in the business. So that's the fast track to being successful in radio, is to be a great salesperson. And you're right, it's very difficult. So here's what I suggest any student to think about. Just because you see a one-size-fits-all sales seminar, that doesn't mean that's the style that you're going to use. I am by nature not a very good sales rep, but I believe in our product so much that I believe that that particular business would benefit from our product and service. And I'll tell them why I think it's going to benefit from. So let's think about this. What's your best sales attribute? I have a 10-year-old, I have a 20-year-old, and I have a 25-year-old. And each one of them use different sales techniques on me on a daily basis. My 10-year-old is trying to convince me how the world would be so much better if we added guineas to the duck and chicken collection, because they would rid our yard of the snakes and the nasty little pest called ticks. And so we need at least 2 guineas, Dad, in order for us to have a much more satisfying backyard and enjoyable backyard. So that's his sales pitch. It's a very good one. I like it. And I think we're going to wait until the first quarter to maybe have budget in order to take on his guineas. My 20-year-old is going into her junior. She's a junior. She's going to be a senior. And Dad, wouldn't you like for me to continue my twirl career by allowing me one more semester at school? I could graduate this fall, but if I can go into the spring, there's a good chance we're going to have football, and I'll be able to get on that field one more time to twirl. Would you like to be funding me for one more semester? Another great sales pitch, because she's showing all the benefit that I could have on that as well. And then my oldest son, he's more blunt. Hey, Dad, I need some extra tattoo money for today. Got it. Okay. So what I'm saying is think about how you have talked to your parents about where you are today, what worked best with them, and look at the clients that you're going out to talk to. What sales technique do you use or do you embrace? You know, we've all had, Dale, you've had some students try to sweet talk you into something, and you realize they're selling you. They're selling you on it, on what, why, what, when, and how. So if you can take those things that you know that you do well, you can use that as your sales technique, then you can own it and you can hone your craft. And then you can go back and watch some of these sales seminars and pick up little tidbits that will help you. For example, this is one of my favorite ones, Mark Levy. Yeah, it does a great job at this. And what he does is when he's talking about, he'll use hand motions. So tell me about what's really struggling with your business. I never thought about that, but by using the hand motion, it's just saying, "Tell me about what it is." So little things like that can be picked up and put into your own style, and you can be a successful salesperson. But it's not a one size fits all.
Sure, sure. But it's a great technique to develop, and if you have any aptitude towards it, I think you really can have a lot of success in broadcasting if you can move past the um, the stigma that you have about it, and to realize you do have something that can be of great benefit to these businesses, and so it's not really as much selling them as inviting them to this great opportunity.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's relationship, relationship, relationship. My dad would always tell us, go out and love somebody. And here's a really easy tip. If you ever walk in to a business that you are trying to approach to sell, and you see that they just got a delivery of a truck, put down your pen and paper, roll up your sleeves, ask that owner if you can help them unload that truck with them. Or ask that owner, can I help you with anything that you've got going on in this store? If there's 10 people deep, you need to wave at them. I'll be back when it's, because the last thing you need to do is be an intrusion to their business, because we're trying to help them gain more business.
That's great. That's great. I wanted to turn now to, in the time of COVID-19, it's had an effect on every industry. And I wonder if there's any ways in which your group has had to make some changes. If there's any changes that you've realized. I know, like in education, some changes that we've had to make. I talk to teachers. They're going to keep using them. This very concept of using Zoom. 1 year ago, no one had heard about it, but it actually has been a great tool that I think will be used long after the pandemic and that we're all shut in is over. Has there been any changes that you've seen in the industry that you think are things you've had to deal with, but also things, hey, I might stick around with this?
I would say that plan on having your own home studio. Make sure that you have got a way to broadcast or video yourself, your product available, because that's probably been the biggest thing that we've seen. And here's the reason why I mention this. You may go and get your dream job, and you may be working in your own home. And what I mean by that is there may be stations in metro markets, Dallas, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, et cetera. And you may actually be able to live and work in your home in Durant, Oklahoma, at those major markets in your own home studio.
Right.
So make an investment. There's some really cool stuff out right now that's inexpensive to build your own home studio. And right now I'm just on an iMac. And I'm able to do the Zoom. So exactly, is that I love the Rode stuff. I love the Heil stuff that's coming out. But be prepared to make an investment in your own home studio, because that may be your new job, and you may actually never. In the old days of radio, we had to pack up our car, our trunk, and we had to drive to the next gig. You may not ever have to experience that, and that may be a really good thing moving forward.
Right. Right. Um, in fact, we have a new automation system coming that we're getting the hardware together now, but the system's already been delivered. We just have to now put it all together. But one of the things it will do is it'll allow our students to be able to do their shift remotely.
Absolutely.
And so that, because one of the things that happened this spring was that students in the audio production class couldn't do shifts on the air because they couldn't give them access to the building. And so it's really great. I wanted to ask you.
That's my future. It's we're going to become a collaboration of many parts of the spoken wheel, and the hub will always be the studio. But a lot of us won't ever even see the light of the studio.
You mentioned the digital aspect of your stations as well. Is some of that also including video?
No question. So we have a full green screen at most of our facilities. So we have the green screen. We are also being more cognitive. This is one of the studios I'm in right now. We're trying to make it more aesthetic to the video. We believe that the video component is going to be a necessity of radio broadcasting. Friday Night Football, we're doing football, it's video. We're doing basketball, it's video. A lot of our components are moving that direction. Is it replacement? No, it's just an enhancement.
Yeah.
It's partly because we would have done this 50 years ago if we had the technology to do it, but we didn't. It had to be done through a traditional way. And now we have the ability to bring in the video. And it's going to be so important. If you want a job in a radio station, I think that you're going to see very soon blurring of the lines between a TV station and a radio station. It's going to be going to a community or being a part of the community, and you're going to be using video, you're going to be using audio, every tool at your disposal to be successful in that community.
Yeah, we changed our sort of intro level class. Now is a class where it's called online video. The name's got to change a little bit, but the idea is basically we start with this. Everything starts on here. From here, they launch a YouTube channel. They create weekly content. They're doing audio and video and social media. They have to create. So they essentially have to create their own little media company, and then try to drive content to those products that they're driving, drive views to that content they're creating. So it's definitely
the technology on your phone is getting to be so good that you're going to have to know how to use it and use it properly, and make sure that you're panning in, you're panning out, your transitions are right, you're not moving up and down and sideways at the same time. If you can master those skills, you can put those to use on your phone, it'll look really good.
Well, that leads me to, you talked about students having a career, and sort of my last question today was, can you talk about some specific skill sets? So let's say this is a student who's in their sophomore year at Southeastern in the broadcasting program, which means they've got, at least 4 semesters out. And in that time, they've got room to put some electives in their schedule, and also time to gain some experiences in their free time and off time. If a student is 2.5 years from now coming to interview with you for a job, what would you tell them today are some things that you would recommend they look at, either coursework or experiences or skill sets, to have to make them the most marketable they could be?
It's a great question. So I think that, what I would encourage all students to do, obviously you're in your core curriculum right now, take an elective that interests you. Find an area that is outside your comfort zone that interests you, and go for it. Make sure that you're getting some, different experiences, because this concept, whether it's audio, whether it's video, you can take that into any career. And I fully expect Fortune 500 companies, for example, the Choctaw Nation has its own media department. Every large company is going to have a media department where these skill sets are going to be needed. You just maybe, stumble on a different company, or you may go over to aviation and find out that, you might work for American Airlines, but it may not be flying airplanes, but it may be doing the media and the social side of it as well. So, I would go out and find something that you really like and love, and experiment a little bit outside your core curriculum. So therefore, you can actually take this training and use it in that particular industry as well. But on the radio side, I want to throw this out there. If you want to be in radio or TV, media, heck, newspapers are even doing this stuff now. If you want to be in that arena, go and find 5, 10, 15 companies that interest you, and email directly, or figure out a way to contact somebody and say, hey, I am a sophomore at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, and I am really interested in this field, and here's the part of it that I'm really interested in doing. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find one of those 10 or 15 people or 20 people, and they're going to say, okay, sure, keep sending me some information. I would even offer up and say, hey, Bob, Susie, Michael, John, Abby, if you want to really be in this, send me, a sports report that you want to do, whether it's video or audio. We may be able to use some of your stuff now and work with you over the next couple of years to hone that craft. And I guarantee you, if you've been in with my company, and we've had several of them that have done it, we end up getting a job afterwards because you work your way up into that position. You become trust, and you're the go-to person when we need somebody. So, I mean, I would think that would be the part that I would get involved with. And maybe there's 3 or 4 outlets that you're sending your products that you make, whether it's audio, video, they're in your own home studio or from the college, and you're sending it out. It makes you much more marketable at that point. Or if I can't use you, I may know somebody that can.
I know it also, that I would add to that too, you're talking about making those connections. I can't encourage students strongly enough to attend the OAB Student Day when it finally opens back up. I have been so pleased at the connections that our students have made, that you see us there at OAB. We go, in fact, we stay for the professional day as well. I don't tell the other schools that, but we do, because I want our students going to those workshops and meeting those people that are going to be colleagues someday very soon. And so I really encourage folks to do that. I have found that so valuable for our students.
Yep. One other thing I'd add to it is the RAB radio show is coming up very quickly. If it's available online, it's a student fee for that. Jump into that. Expect something in 2021 for the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters. We're going to have something for you, whether it's in person, whether it's online. It's very invaluable to be a part of that, but it's also very valuable to just get your name out there, get your product out there. And this business is very, very kind in the sense of you can send a piece out. What do you think? And you'll get somebody to respond back to it to let you know what you need to improve on it. But there's a lot of radio stations in Oklahoma and TV stations. I can speak for the radio group that we would definitely use some product if someone was willing to produce something or take on or say, hey, do you have any projects to be done? I'm willing to try it. And I think that I would go that route because we've never seen a news cycle like we're in right now. Things are turning so fast. Friday night football is and isn't happening. We're going to have basketball season coming up very, very quickly. That's going to be but maybe football to the next power because usually we have so many more games. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And if you take that opportunity and seize it now, you're going to set yourself way ahead of the rest of the crowd when it comes to 21, 22, 23, when you're looking for a job.
Yeah. And you mentioned, to have a broad view of what jobs could be. You mentioned the Choctaw Nation, and you mentioned their audiovisual department. In fact, their video program is 100% Southeastern alum. It's all Southeastern alum up there. So that's our plug for that. Is there any sort of parting shots or last thoughts you would have for our folks out there watching today?
I do have one last thing I want to leave you with. As a student, this was something that's ingrained in me as a young broadcaster. Remember, when you go to work for a company, it's about the company. Whether it's Payne Media Group or whether it's a Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Fort Worth, or Durant Media Company, it's about the company that you're working for. Remember, the company comes first, and then we come, ourself comes second. So yes, I work for Payne Media Group. I work for the brand, but then myself comes second. So don't get trapped in trying to promote yourself, because if you do a great job of selling the company and working the company, your brand is going to come very naturally. People are going to know your brand very, very well as you develop within that company. So don't forget that. It's about the company first, and then yourself second. And then last but not least, make sure you're having fun. This is a very fun business. When I hear people not having fun, that means that they need to get out of this business. If you're not having any fun, or find another company to work for, because this is a very exciting business. We never do the same thing on a daily basis. We're always looking forward to the next great thing that we're going to produce, or we're going to be proud of, or we're going to have exciting, and have that passion. Make sure that passion's always with you. And then last but not least, I would be failing in my job if I didn't mention our company logo or website is PayneMediaGroup.com. You can go on there and look. My cell phone number is on there. My email number is on there. Email is on there as well. You can reach out to me however you want, but it's PayneMediaGroup.com.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate all of this and you taking your time out to share with the students. It really means a lot. I thank you very, very much for that.
Go Southeastern.
Bye-bye.